Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Imagine building a company that, confidently plans to burn through, $200 billion in cash?
200 billion, yeah.
Right, $200 billion before it ever makes a single cent of profit.
Oh, it sounds like a massive scam.
Exactly. Or like a government space program or something. But right now, that is the actual business plan for the most important technology company on Earth. Welcome in. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
And we are the Snarful Solutions Group, coming to you from Sacramento, California. Today is April 6th, 2026. Let's get you grounded before we unpack today's stories.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, sunny 80 degrees here in Sacramento today.
Perfect weather. And out in the markets, we're seeing some slight bumps. The Dow closed up about 35 points. S&P 500 is up 70 points. And Bitcoin has climbed to over $69,300.
Just keeps climbing. Although locally, tough break in sports. The Kings took a pretty heavy loss against the Clippers last night.
Yeah, 109 to 138. Ouch.
Rough one. But hey, we have a massive stack of sources to get through today.
We really do. We're pulling from the latest financial reporting in the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Business Today, and Fortune.
Plus some deeply researched investigative pieces from The New Yorker and Implicator.ai.
Our mission today is to, look past the shiny press releases and see what is actually happening in the engine room of the tech industry. Whether you're investing in tech, using AI at work, or just insanely curious about where the future is heading, you need to know what happens when infinite hype meets the cold, hard reality of public markets.
Exactly.
But before we get into the main stories, a quick word. Today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew, but is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
Awesome. So let's unpack this.
Right. We need to start by establishing how vulnerable the broader tech ecosystem is right now, before we even touch the AI giants.
Yeah, there's a big theme running through all our sources today, the illusion of scale.
And the massive trust problem it creates. Let's look at the staggering digital heist that hit Drift Protocol on April 1st.
Oh, man. Drift.
Drift is a decentralized exchange on the Solana blockchain.
Which basically means it operates without a traditional bank.
Right.
Or like a CEO calling the shots. It's essentially a financial market governed entirely by automated smart contracts.
Exactly. And last week, they lost $270 million in digital assets.
$270 million, just gone.
Just gone. But the twist here is that this wasn't some late-night brute force cyber attack where a hacker, guessed a password.
Not at all. I mean, this was an incredibly sophisticated 6-month-long con.
6 months?
Yeah. A hacker group linked to the North Korean government spent half a year posing as a legitimate quantitative trading firm.
Wow. And for those unfamiliar, a quantitative or quant firm uses complex mathematical models to execute rapid-fire trades, right?
Right. And the hackers didn't just hide behind encrypted screens. They actually attended in-person events in the tech community to meet Drift contributors face-to-face.
Wait, really? North Korean state actors are out there shaking hands at crypto mixers?
Yep. They even deposited more than $1 million of their own assets into the platform just to build a verifiable track record.
That is wild. Putting down $1 million in collateral just to look the part. I mean, how does a physical handshake translate into a digital vault opening?
Well, it translates into automated trust. By acting like a highly liquid, reliable market maker for 6 months, they gained elevated borrowing privileges within Drift's algorithmic lending system.
So the system basically said, hey, these guys are good for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Drift's own post-mortem report stated the attackers were technically fluent and had perfectly fabricated professional backgrounds.
Unbelievable.
And once they reached that top-tier trust level, they exploited a highly specific vulnerability in the margin trading systems.
And margin trading is basically borrowing money against the assets you already have to make larger bets, right?
You got it. The hackers manipulated the pricing oracle, which is the code that tells the platform what an asset is currently worth, and tricked the system into thinking their collateral was infinitely valuable.
Oh, Michael.
And then they drained $270 million in less than 60 seconds.
Less than a minute. That is incredible. But, it points to a much bigger issue. If a hostile government can fake an entire financial institution with a few pinstripe suits and some seed money, what happens when you introduce artificial intelligence into the mix?
Right, because if startups are using AI to fake scale at the bottom of the market, the results are terrifying.
Let's look closer at the Medvi telehealth story that just broke.
Oh, this one is fascinating. So the New York Times recently published this glowing profile holding Medvi up as AI's first billion-dollar company.
$1 billion.
Right. They painted it as a $1.8 billion success story built by just 2 employees with $20,000 in seed money.
I mean, it sounds like the ultimate Silicon Valley dream, right? Infinite scale with zero overhead.
Totally. But the reality underneath that valuation is completely hollow.
Because the FDA actually sent Medvi a formal warning letter for false and misleading claims about their GLP-1 weight loss drugs.
Yes, a full 6 weeks before that New York Times profile even went to print.
And GLP-1s, for anyone wondering, are that incredibly popular class of drugs like Ozempic.
Right.
So how does a 2-person company bypass basic medical scrutiny while actively being investigated by the federal government?
Well, by using AI to generate an illusion that moves faster than human regulators can track. The layers of deception here are structural.
Structural how?
So Medvi used automated systems to scrape deepfake patient photos from Reddit. One supposed weight loss transformation they aggressively advertised was actually a woman's sobriety journey from 2017.
Wait, 2017, years before this class of drugs was even prescribed for weight loss.
Exactly. The AI simply found an image that matched the engagement metrics they wanted and auto-generated the ad copy around it.
That is so gross.
They also fabricated over 800 doctor accounts on Facebook with names like Dr. Sarah Martin and Dr. Monica Ashford.
None of whom are real people.
None of them.
And it gets worse for the actual patients. Their clinical partner, OpenLoop, suffered a data breach in January exposing 1.6 million patient records.
Huge breach.
Plus, there's a class action lawsuit alleging their compounded oral weight loss tablets have literally no viable absorption pathway in the human body.
Basically sugar pills.
Yeah. Yet, legacy media is amplifying them as an AI triumph. It's like the tech world has built the ultimate Hollywood set, but there's no actual building behind the facade.
Yeah.
I have to push back on the narrative a bit here, though. Is the real vulnerability the technology itself, or is it just human nature wanting to blindly trust a shiny new tool?
Well, see, this raises an important question because the vulnerability is the speed at which the technology exploits that human nature.
Right. The scale of it.
Exactly. AI allows these marketing funnels and deepfake deceptions to be spun up at a machine scale. A single regulator at the FDA manually reviewing a case file cannot compete with an algorithm generating 1,000 fake doctor profiles an hour.
You just can't keep up.
You can't. It creates a massive new category of enforcement risk. The legacy media amplifies the hype, but the regulatory record tells a total different story.
So we're moving from a world where you had to fake things manually to a world where faking it is like a software feature.
A built-in feature, yeah.
And that brings us to the most critical part of this. If trust and sustainable scaling are the biggest issues in tech right now, what happens when we look at the biggest player in the room?
The one providing the tools for everyone else.
Right, OpenAI. Because their internal financials suggest they're faking scale too, just with unprecedented amounts of capital instead of deepfakes.
Yeah, let's look at the internal crisis playing out right now. OpenAI is currently valued at an eye-watering $852 billion.
Almost $1 trillion.
Almost $1 trillion. And CEO Sam Altman is aggressively pushing for an initial public offering, taking the company to the public stock market as early as the fourth quarter of 2026.
Okay, but internally, the foundation is shaking. His chief financial officer, Friar, is raising massive red flags.
She is. She's telling colleagues that the company simply isn't ready for the brutal transparency of the public markets.
And when you look at their financial projections, I mean, it is obvious why she is hitting the brakes. OpenAI is projecting $14 billion in sheer losses for 2026 alone.
$14 billion.
And they have locked in commitments to spend $600 billion on cloud infrastructure over the next 5 years.
That's just an unfathomable amount of money.
The Wall Street Journal reporting shows they expect to burn through $85 billion in the year 2028 alone.
Wow.
They are going to incinerate $200 billion in cash before they ever see a dime of profit. I mean, why are the costs scaling so astronomically? It's just code, isn't it?
It is not just code, it is brute force physics.
Physics.
Yeah. To make an AI smarter, you have to increase its parameters right. the neural connections it uses to understand language. But the computing power required doesn't scale linearly. It scales exponentially.
Okay.
So training the next generation of large language models, or LLMs, requires tens of thousands of specialized microchips running at maximum capacity for months.
Just constant power.
Constant. That requires massive physical data centers, which require entire power plants just to cool the servers down.
And the human element managing this crisis is completely fractured. Sam Altman has reportedly excluded his CFO, Sarah Friar, from key financial meetings.
A CFO.
Yeah, specifically including conversations with investors about procuring those exact physical servers.
It's crazy.
In fact, since August 2025, Friar hasn't even reported to Altman. She reports to Fidji Simo, the CEO of Applications.
And here's the kicker. Fidji Simo happens to currently be on medical leave.
So the person in charge of the money has been completely sidelined while the company prepares to ask the public for billions.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is the circular nature of OpenAI's recent $122 billion funding round.
Right.
A massive portion of that investment capital came directly from Amazon and NVIDIA.
Oh, okay.
But Amazon and NVIDIA are the exact same companies that sell OpenAI the cloud space and the specialized microchips they need to train the AI.
Wait, taking investment money from NVIDIA just to turn around and buy NVIDIA chips? I mean, that isn't a traditional investment.
No, not at all.
It's like a casino giving you free chips at the door, but you have to promise to only spend them at the roulette tables.
Exactly.
It inflates the casino's revenue on paper because it looks like you're spending money, but no real external value has been created yet. How can public markets possibly evaluate that kind of circular financial loop?
They can't. At least not without the kind of intense audited scrutiny that private venture capital markets just don't demand.
Sure.
In the private market, a high valuation is a marketing tool. In the public market, you have to show your math every 3 months. And you can see the pressure of that impending reality check getting to OpenAI because they are rapidly pulling back on their consumer products to save server space.
Yeah, if you were sitting there wondering why your ChatGPT subscription hasn't gotten any groundbreaking new features in a year, this financial pressure is exactly why.
Yep. Leadership is now calling these consumer features side quests, and they are killing them off one by one.
They permanently discontinued their highly anticipated video generator, Sora.
And shutting that down actually collapsed a massive $1 billion partnership deal they had with Disney to stream AI-generated content.
$1 billion deal. Gone. They also killed an instant checkout feature they launched with Walmart because it failed to gain any real traction with shoppers.
They shelved plans for an adult mode for ChatGPT after staff and investors panicked about the brand risk.
Oh, I bet.
And they even discontinued the GPT-4o model entirely because users complained the AI was too sycophantic, meaning it was so eager to please the user that it became overly agreeable and stopped providing objective answers.
Yeah. It was just agreeing with whatever you said.
Exactly. They are retreating from all these consumer experiments to hoard their computing power for enterprise clients.
And all of this chaotic product shifting is happening while leadership itself is under a microscope.
Oh, heavily.
The New Yorker just published a deep investigation into Sam Altman, based on over 100 interviews with current and former colleagues. It paints a deeply complicated picture.
Yeah, one board member quoted in the piece described Altman as unconstrained by truth.
Ooh, that's rough.
It is. The article traces a long history of exaggeration. For example, back at his early startup, Looped, he went around aggressively bragging to his staff that he was a high school ping pong champion in Missouri.
Okay, weird flex, but okay.
Right. But his colleagues eventually realized he was actually the worst player in the entire office.
Wait, really?
Yeah. He just said it with such absolute confidence that people believed him.
I mean, I have to play devil's advocate here. In Silicon Valley, bending the truth is just called fake it till you make it.
Oh, for sure.
It's practically a religion out here. Every founder promises a reality that doesn't exist yet in order to secure the funding to build it.
Right.
But when you are controlling the development of artificial general intelligence, a system designed to outsmart human beings, and you are asking for $1 trillion valuation, does that harmless startup trope suddenly become a global liability?
Well, as one former colleague put it in the article, there is a dangerous blurring between the phrase, I think I can accomplish this, and the phrase, I have already accomplished this.
Yeah.
In its most toxic form, that exact blurring between future projection and present reality is what leads to catastrophic corporate frauds.
So what does this all mean for the broader economy? We have an industry leader burning cash at an unprecedented rate, a frozen executive suite, and a culture of extreme exaggeration.
It means we are hitting a massive market reality check. And this brings us to our final sources for today.
Let's unpack it.
The institutional investors, the people managing billions of dollars in pension funds and university endowments, they aren't ignoring these red flags. They are actively voting with their wallets.
Okay.
The secondary market for OpenAI shares has essentially frozen solid.
Frozen. Explain the mechanics of that. If the company is valued at $852 billion, shouldn't early employees be cashing out and buying yachts right now?
Normally, yes. In a secondary market, early employees or early investors sell their private shares to new institutional buyers before the IPO happens.
Make some cash before it goes public.
Exactly. According to financial reporting, sellers are currently trying to offload $600 million worth of OpenAI shares.
Okay.
They are so desperate to sell that they are offering a 10% discount, which brings the implied valuation down to around $765 billion.
That's a massive haircut.
Huge. But nobody is biting. Brokers literally cannot find anyone in their pool of hundreds of institutional investors willing to take the shares, even at a discount.
That is shocking for a company that just raised $122 billion a few months ago.
It really is.
If the smart money is completely walking away from discounted OpenAI shares, where is that institutional capital going instead?
It is pivoting directly to Anthropic, OpenAI's biggest competitor. Buyers currently have $2 billion in cash ready to deploy into Anthropic, which is valued at a much lower $380 billion.
So half the price.
Right. Investors look at the math and see a much better risk-reward ratio. Anthropic is quietly dominating the highly lucrative enterprise client market.
The corporate money.
Yeah. And investors are betting that their valuation will eventually catch up to OpenAI's without all the massive boardroom drama.
I mean, to be perfectly fair, though, Anthropic isn't immune to the exact same trust and infrastructure issues we've been tracking today.
That's true.
Anthropic's AI model, Claude, isn't bulletproof. They just had a massive cloud misconfiguration that leaked 3,000 internal files to the public.
Yeah, that was messy.
And then just days later, they accidentally shipped over 500,000 lines of their proprietary source code. On top of that, they just hit their heavy enterprise users with a massive billing shock, forcibly moving them from a predictable flat-rate subscription to a pay-as-you-go pricing model.
Which perfectly illustrates why enterprise buyers are getting so nervous.
Right.
Security incidents and unpredictable billing are moving corporate AI procurement decisions in real time. For a Fortune 500 company, trust is becoming just as measurable as the AI's performance benchmarks.
It's all about reliability.
Exactly. And because of the stumbles from both OpenAI and Anthropic, we are seeing entirely different architectural approaches surge in popularity.
Like Mistral.
Yes, Mistral, the European AI company, just posted the biggest single-week gain on the developer popularity metrics, climbing 6 full points.
And Mistral is taking a fundamentally different approach to the massive computing infrastructure problem.
Very different.
They aren't relying on Amazon or Microsoft. They just secured an $830 million debt raise from a consortium of traditional banks to build their own massive 44-megawatt data center just south of Paris.
44 megawatts?
Yeah, they are buying nearly 14,000 NVIDIA GPUs outright.
Outright.
But, I mean, why build a physical data center when you can just rent server space in the cloud like everyone else?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, renting compute means you don't control your own profit margins. Every time your AI gets smarter, your cloud bill goes up.
I see.
Mistral is choosing to own their compute infrastructure. More importantly, they're targeting enterprise buyers and European governments who view third-party American cloud servers as an absolute security disqualifier.
Because of data privacy laws.
Exactly. European regulators will not put their citizens' sensitive medical or financial data on a server sitting in a Microsoft facility. They demand data sovereignty.
So they want it on their soil.
Yes. They want verifiable local infrastructure, not just a charismatic pitch deck from a Silicon Valley CEO.
It's a fundamental shift from, renting the future to actually pouring the concrete for it.
Exactly. Before we wrap this all up, do you want to hit our final sponsor?
Oh, yeah. Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store. Perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFUL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
Thanks for that. So looking at everything we've covered today, from the highly sophisticated drift protocol hack to Medzi faking their scale, all the way up to the OpenAI boardroom crisis, the connective tissue here is this sudden, intense demand for verifiable reality.
Yeah. You are going to see these AI tools integrated into your email clients, your healthcare portals, your entire daily economy.
Everywhere.
But the infrastructure powering those tools is walking a razor-thin financial tightrope. The era of blank checks and zero scrutiny in artificial intelligence is ending.
It really is.
Public markets demand audited reality, and right now, the underlying math of the AI revolution is struggling to add up. The illusion of scale is finally colliding head-on with the actual cost of doing business.
Now, I want to leave you with something to chew on regarding those costs.
Go for it.
Think about this. Inference costs, which is just the computing power required to run the AI when you ask it a single question, are currently eating up more than half of the total revenue for both OpenAI and Anthropic.
Half. Just to answer the questions.
Yeah. The act of retrieving the answer costs almost as much as the user pays for the service.
That is insane.
If providing artificial intelligence is so fundamentally expensive that it breaks all known rules of corporate finance, are we actually building the next essential global utility grid? Or are we just funding the most expensive .com bubble in human history?
Wow.
What happens if the internet's new brain goes bankrupt before it ever figures out how to turn a profit?
That is a terrifying and incredibly important question for all of us to be asking as we watch this play out. We're here to help at Snurful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.